Hello and welcome to the Founders 15 podcast. My name is Phil Burst. We're here today with the fantastic Anthony Rose. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning, Phil. All right,
Are
let's
we all
go.
good? Let's go. Let's do it. We've got 15 minutes. Let's go. I would like to open the floor with a question directly to you, which is, in your opinion, Anthony, what do you think excites and motivates an investor to part with their hard-earned cash?
Great question and a fun passion point. So I think the first thing to note is all investors are different. They invest for different reasons. There's the spreadsheet guru, the person who looks at the numbers, they want a return on investment, they're going to take the TAM, SAM, SOM, multiply it out, get the net present value, and if the numbers are right, they're in. Then there's the eco warrior. They're the ones that want to save the planet, do good for the world. They know it's not really going to be a paying big ticket proposition, but they want in. Then there is the well-paid person at a big company who really wants to be a founder themselves, but isn't giving up their day job. So if they can hang out with the cool kids and be an advisor, they're probably going to advise you to death. And you may not want them because of all their advice, but giving them something that they can get their hands on and have some fun while not giving up their day job. And then there others that want bragging rights. I was the first in on Monzo or whatever. And so you're going to, so for each of these, I think the key is to understand the investor persona and then sex it up is the wrong word, maybe hype it up or tap into their desire because everyone's investing. Probably they think with their head, but realistically, a lot of the decision making is the heart. So if you identify the numbers guru, then it's all going to be about the financials. If you detect that it's the eco person, then play to that. And when I talk to an investor, the first thing I'm going to ask is for them to tell me a bit about themselves. What are you looking for? What are your types of investments? And importantly, also, are you a lead or a follower investor? Because most founders don't understand that until way late in their round, where it turns out, investors are always saying, yeah, we find the future and pick the change the world. It turns out everyone's a follower investor. They want someone to lead. And so the first things to do when you talk to an investor, try to find out what turns them on. And you don't need to say, of course, what turns you on. You're going to ask them about some of their other investments or, delve into it. And then if it's an angel investor, they are probably going to be, in a sense, a follow investor, but they're happy that you lead the round. Where if it's a VC, try to find out or ask directly, do you typically lead rounds or do you typically follow or you're ambivalent? Because the catch-22 that many founders find themselves in is they've got all these investors who want to invest, but they're waiting for somebody to lead. And then you're waiting forever. This catch-22. So if you discover it's the lead, then you're going to try to use your conversations with that investor to actually get them to get on board and lead the round. And if it's a follower investor, there's no point hassling them because you want to keep them warm, count them in, and now you have to go find the lead. So yes, the answer is it's all about finding out what drives that investor and then tapping into that desire.
Fantastic. I mean, what a great answer to start off with, Anthony. I love the work that you do at SeedLegals. I'm a big fan. I use the platform. I've just closed a round via SeedLegals. I've got a fully engrossed experience firsthand now of how it works. And I think it's fantastic. My next question is, if we've got this homogenous conglomerate of investors in our head, but actually they're all very individual people. They're all very nuanced in the way that they approach investment or the way that they might react to your pitch. What's your thought process then around how do you start that fundraising journey? Because I'm thinking as a founder, I've got my vision to get across, but I'm wondering whether that's the right way to go about it. Is that the right way to think? Are we thinking in the wrong way? And should we be thinking about what the investor wants? I'd love just to maybe take one of those people, for example, and just deep dive into how we might go about starting that conversation and kind of engaging them to get them to close the round.
So I love your question because I spent the entire Easter weekend working on an April Fool's joke. And the April Fool's joke, which is, if you look on the SeedLegal site, you'll see it, is this, that you prepare a pitch deck, but you prepare the same pitch deck for every investor. But every investor is different. What if you could use AI to make a custom-built pitch deck that reads the investor's LinkedIn profile, their tweets, the other things they've invested in, builds a custom pitch deck just for them? Now, that's not really realistic. I'm sure somebody will do it, but you could tweak the graphics and the pitch, but you could also completely radically change the amount you want to raise. So Alice, I'm raising, 200K. Jim, I'm raising 10 million, because one's in the UK and one's in the US. But clearly that's rather unrealistic. But the problem is you can only really create one pitch deck because it's simply too much work to create multiple pitch decks. But when you talk to an investor, each conversation is unique and customized for that investor. So you've got your slide deck. The question then is the first thing is to find investors. So how are you going to find investors? And of course, the normal advice is get a warm intro. Well, a warm intro means somebody who knows the investor is going to introduce you. But how do you do that? I mean, if you're lucky enough to know people, so the technique you can use is get on LinkedIn, find investors that you want to get connected to, look at who's in common that LinkedIn shows you, and then reach out to a couple of people you have in common and ask for an intro. And I'm not so, please don't do that with me, but occasionally people do it with me. And, I'll search Outlook and look at when I last spoke to this person. And if it was in the last 6 months, great, if I met them recently. But if it was like 2014 that I met them at an event and never spoken since, but we connected on LinkedIn, then obviously I can't do it. But try to leverage people you see in common to make a connection. And then your first outreach to an investor isn't to send them a pitch deck, it's to get them enticed. Each investor outreach is like a Netflix. The goal is to get you to watch the next episode until the end of the series, and then that's when the money's in the bank. So the first one is to try and get the investor to respond, and then you don't send a pitch deck yet. And then, there's different advice. Sometimes people say send the pitch deck up front. I like to not send the pitch deck up front and get on a call or meet the investor and go through it together. Why? Because people will tell you they've read the pitch deck. Nobody reads the pitch. I mean, it's not nobody, but then you've got this awkward thing. You can't say to the investor, have you gone through the pitch deck? And then they go, yes. And then you ignore it because they haven't.
Yeah.
And but you can't assume that they have, even if they say. So then you've got this slightly awkward conversation where you're not talking about the deck, but you are. Whereas if you hold off sending the deck until the call, the other thing is if you send the slide deck first and the investor never responds, which is quite frequent, then you don't know if it's because they've never looked at the deck and not got around to it, or they've looked at the deck and they definitely don't want in. So you're screwed. So I think you're better off getting on a call, and then you can be passionate about it. And this is the other thing is I talk to lots of founders. You've obviously, everyone listening or watching this has met founders excitedly telling you what they're working on. It looks great. And then you get the pitch deck and you're looking at it going, we use blockchain, AI, distributed ledger, and you have no idea what they're doing. It's all drowned in a sea of stuff that they do. So you normally deliver a great pitch, but the pitch deck is kind of meh. So you want to leverage the excitement. And we love with our SeedLegals awards, for the ones that my business partner, Laurent, personally invested in, he asked that people make a 1-minute video. And his feedback was the 1-minute video was so much better than endless numbers of pitch decks, because suddenly you got to see the personality of the founders, the excitement, the problem they were solving, as opposed to stuff. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but I think the gist of it is reach out to shamelessly as many investors as you can on social with a post working on X. Don't make it a financial promotion. Don't say, guaranteed 3x return in 4 years or something like that. Just working on X, beautiful lifestyle image of person with mobile phone or your drone or your pizza, or whatever it might be, solving this problem, of course. So it's about the problem you solve. Something is insane. We had to change that, working on this, raising, X amount, magic words, SEIS and EIS, contact me for more. And hopefully you'll have people who want to invest to learn more. but you may find people asking you about or telling you about competitors. You
Mm.
may find people wanting to partner. You may have people going, hey, my father's got a business that does X. And it may turn out months go by and people only follow up later. But the more noise you make, and then when people later on Google your business, it's going to start finding the LinkedIn posts and you start popping up in search results. So making noise is important, at least in the early days when you sort of spray and pray, as it's called, reaching out to lots of angels.
Yeah.
And later on, it might be in later stage rounds more focused with, more funds. And if you do your homework and you're lucky, it'll be funds calling you, not you having to call them.
I mean, I've got to take a pause there, Anthony, because in classic Anthony Rose fashion, you've digested the entire investment journey in about 3 minutes there. But I'm going to unpack a few of those bits and just kind of play back a little bit, if you don't mind. The first thing I hear is that reaching out to investors is a journey. It's not a one-stop shop. Here's my deck. Will you invest? The second thing you talked about there is about, investment is probably a 12-month journey, if not an ongoing journey of building those relationships. And I think lots of founders kind of reach day one and think, right, I need to invest today. And they're sort of already 12 months behind that relationship stage. I'm hearing about the power of kind of building the brand, about reinforcing your brand messaging, your vision, your mission with your audience, probably on LinkedIn for what we do. I 100% agree with that. And I'm also hearing about how, investment is about balancing the emotional and the illogical. You're sort of enticing them with the emotion, that kind of the vision, the journey, the mission. But actually behind it is the people delivering on that promise. It's you, the founder, and it's you, the founding team. So I just wanted to ask you, how do you think a founder, and I love the video idea, by the way, Anthony, I think that's a fantastic idea. How does a founder demonstrate that credibility when they're engaging with investors? How do they build up that sense that this is a person I'd like to invest in?
Interestingly, I talk to many, many founders at SeedLegals. I don't invest, but I do get to see their journey as they raise or don't raise a first round and then second round and so on. And when you talk to a founder, there's sort of something inside you that goes, this is a person I'm going to bet on. I'm not
Mm,
sure about the idea. I'm not sure about their numbers, but I'm certain that they are going to solve problems that come up en route. And even though I don't think their marketing strategy or the product thing, as I see it, is right, they will figure it out as they go along. So I think there's a certain self-confidence that investors are looking for, backed up by a reality check.
mm.
So, if you look at an American talking, dial it down a bit because they are so full of themselves and optimism. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's like,
Everything's
dude,
possible. Everything's possible.
exactly. You're making new, pizza. Dial
Yeah.
it down.
Yeah.
It's not saving the planet. Whereas British are a little bit modest. Yes, well, we've split the atom and we've got a new fusion device which we're hoping to make work. It could be influential. So you want to be exuberant about the big picture potential, but it has to, of course, be backed up with reality. And to me, I'm the tech guy. I'm a
Mm,
ex-CTO person, so I'm always looking for the proof points, the signs that you really can build it, because otherwise it's just an empty promise. We're going to save the planet and do X, or it's going to be bigger than Facebook or whatever. And the missing piece in the deck is how you're going to build it.
mm,
So if you can bet on the founders and there's a credible plan to get there, I think that's the winning formula. And it's going to be somebody, I think, when you talk to them, they just jump out as somebody that stands out above others. And that means if you want to show that aura, you need to work on your presentation skills, because most founders, myself included, are introverts. When I did my Myers-Briggs profile years ago, it was an INTJ. The eyes were
right.
introvert. But then having stood on stage and done presentations enough, you start having to develop the way
Mm,
to pitch. And you're not only pitching for investors, you're pitching to customers, you're pitching to team members to join your crazy team for lower salary earlier on when you've got no money. And if you can bring people on that journey, that's a super important thing. Now, of course, not all founders are like that. If it's not you, find a co-founder who's more of the street hustler
mm.
person in the relationship to do that. But it is something that for most founders probably doesn't come naturally, and is something that you have to work on. Initially, it might feel a bit
Strange.
made up, a bit
Yeah.
strange, a bit put
Yeah.
on, and then hopefully it becomes just the way you do. And then you have to be careful to not cross over into drinking too much of your own Kool-Aid, which is, kind of off-putting. But remember also, it's going to vary by investor. So often when you're
Mm,
talking to American investors, most of the founders they're talking to have dialed it up to 11. So if
yeah.
you are just going, yes, well, we've got significant opportunities, they're going to go, dude, this person is like so not ambitious. So
Yeah.
you have to, whereas if you're talking to somebody the opposite side, don't be so full of it that they're going to go, I just can't live with this person evermore. So
I
yeah,
don't believe them effectively. I don't believe what they're saying.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm conscious we're 15 minutes in, so let's wrap up. I want a final comment about I use SeedLegals. I think it's fantastic. Just in 30 seconds, tell us what SeedLegals does and why founders should engage with the platform.
So SeedLegals is the platform that instead of going to a law firm, when you want to fundraise, when you want to give share options to your team, manage your cap table, create all your contracts and agreements, you come to SeedLegals. Why is it better than going to a law firm or anyone else? Well, it comes with the law firm will give you a contract. On SeedLegals, you get advice, you get videos, you get data to show you what to do, you get a workflow that educates you to all of the questions and deal terms that you want to offer, and you get a 24/7 always on platform and a billing model that's unlimited help and support. So 1 in 3 of all early stage funding rounds is now done on SeedLegals. And one of the other last things is that fundraising itself has radically changed.
Mm.
It's almost the exception that people do a funding round. It's now the norm that you use seed fast to raise ahead of a round, potentially then do a round, and then top up a round. We call it agile fundraising. And 70% of all investment is now people raising before or topping up a round rather than a funding round. And that's all automated, 24/7 on SeedLegals with team to help.
I love SeedLegals. I think the on-demand piece is great. I also think that the way that the workflow guides you through all these incredibly frustrating and difficult to understand legal questions, I love that. I think you're doing a great job, Anthony. I wish we could talk for another 2 hours, but I'm conscious you've probably got a company to run, and I've probably got a company or two to run as well. So let's wrap it up there. And I'm going to say thank you very much. Final question: if people want to get in touch, are you happy to do that, and how would they go about doing so?
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony at seedlegals.com or Anthony Rose on LinkedIn. I would love to hear, and I always love to respond.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time today, Anthony.
Thank you.